Welcome to season 2 of the More Cheers podcast. We are back. We're going to have conversations on topics that you might be avoiding. Some of them you're having at the braai already.
We want to hear your beer stories. We want to understand what role beer's played, what your favorite way, what's your favorite place. And welcome back. This is episode 3 of the More Cheers podcast, the podcast where we celebrate beer and beyond conversations for you. We celebrate them, we uplift them, and today's is particularly delicious. But first, let me introduce somebody delicious to you, my co-host, the delicious Marsha Kumire. Marsha, tell us how you are and tell us who we have on the show today.
I don't get tired of it. Keep it up.
What?
Welcome back, guys. Thanks, Jason. Today, we have an amazing podcast lined up for you. We've got some old faces. We've got Tommy, who joined us last season. We also have Mtunzi. So let me just introduce them a little bit. Tommy is joining us as the Castle Lager director. Last time you saw him, he was the marketing manager. So he is the big boss at Castle Lager.
You've been moving on up.
The boss. And then we have Mtunzi. Mtunzi is a familiar face in the SAB hallways. He's SAB alumni, used to be on Carling Black Label, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what he's doing now. And today we're talking sponsorships. What is the role that sponsorship plays in sports? And we believe we make a positive impact as SAB. We have a long-standing history all the way back to Castle Lager and Lion Lager. And so we want to talk more about what happens with sponsorship. Where does it go? And that's why we've got Mtunzi. And his title is Chief Communications Officer at Cricket SA. Now that's a title, Jason.
Communications or commercial?
Commercial.
Yeah, because communications people
I've
make
just
money,
given him a new job.
But commercial people pay communications people.
I was wondering if my job's changed.
Apologies, you never know. Commercial. Yeah. This is where the money is at Cricket SA. Can I say that?
Yeah, I will let it pass.
So, we're talking sponsorship, Jason, and what the contribution it makes.
Love it.
And there's a lot of money that goes into sponsorship, but I don't think everybody actually knows what happens, where it goes, So maybe we start with Mtunzi.
I feel like we start exactly there. Somebody who spends the money that you know what I mean. Somebody who's very, very good at spending other people's money. Why does it feel obvious? Because when I read the kind of who we were having on today and I was going through it, I felt like, you know what I mean. This is not rocket science. It just feels like I was born into a world where sport and South African breweries, same WhatsApp group. Talk to us about the importance of making that connection, sport and the type of sponsorships that we get and we've seen in history from SAB.
Yeah, so I think the important thing about sport is that it's a passion point. Sports fans are very passionate about sports, their teams, attending live events, etc. And when you do attend a live event, what sponsorship does is that it allows brands to connect with you within the stadium. In Castle Lager's scenario, at some point when you're at the stadium and if you're above 18, you can enjoy a beer while you're watching the game. And interestingly, I look back on my life and, my initial association with cricket and Castle Lager would have been in the late 90s at Kingsmead Stadium in Castle Corner. We were young students at the time and, we'd really enjoy ourselves sitting in Castle Corner because it was really the coming together of two worlds, right? A brand that appeals to you, a sport that appeals to you, you sharing it with mates, you having a shared experience and enjoying international sport. So the importance of it is really around, how sponsors enhance the match day experience, how they are able to create ways of engaging with the sport, whether you're in the stadium or outside the stadium. A lot of the activity from sponsors starts weeks or even months before the match itself happens. And it's really about building up to this event, the sports game, where you can then, enjoy the product or enjoy the game whilst you're enjoying the product as well.
Tommy Lawrence brand director.
The boss.
Let's keep saying it because
Yes.
it sounds very nice. And we've got the chief and the brand director. So Tommy Lawrence, brand director for Castle. Do you kind of share that sentiment? From my perspective, it just makes perfect sense. I hate an alignment where you can see people are just doing this for the sake. You know what I mean? Where I feel our brands, your brand, Castle, is so at home in any stadium environment. Is that something that is considered? And maybe talk us through some of the history in terms of how the breweries, South African breweries, got involved in sports marketing and how that's become almost kind of it goes without saying, the first call must be you.
Sure, thanks. I mean, I share the sentiment with Mtunzi. Castle Lager and SAB has been in sports sponsorship for a long time, many decades. I think we first started sponsoring the Proteas in the early 90s, Bafana in 1991, and we just celebrated our 40-year anniversary with SARU, South African Rugby. So we've always been in sports sponsorship, and Mtunzi raised an interesting point. He made an interesting comment in the sense of, sports brings people together, just like beer brings people together.
Yes.
And at Castle Lager, we've always told stories about what South Africans love the most. And what do South Africans love the most? They love sport. They love brewing, and of course, they love a cold beer, Castle Lager. So we've sponsored the Proteas, Bafana, and the Springboks for many years, but not only at national level. We've also sponsored grassroots football, cricket clubs, rugby clubs. So for us, it's a long-term commitment. It fits perfectly with the Castle Lager brand of making new friends and bringing people together, and one that we are exceptionally proud of our partners. And of course, we've got big admiration for Mtunzi and his team, and long may the Protea partnership also, move forward.
And I think Tommy, you mentioned that SAB, we have been part of sponsorship for a while. Mtunzi, when you were at SAB, you worked on Carling Cup, which is a sponsorship, in itself. Tell us a bit about that time, working on that. I mean, it's still there today. The Carling Cup has evolved a little bit, but what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a homecoming.
Welcome
home.
I spent a number of years at SAB, and I was reflecting on it on my way here, and it was some of the most enjoyable times of my career, because a lot of the people that I worked with became personal friends, and they still are personal friends now. And we did some really good work. And, the Carling Black Label Cup is an example of that. It's used in business schools across the world as an example of how to effectively, link your sponsorship to an event and link it to people actually buying your product. So, the sort of 3 points of the brand, the sponsorship property, as well as driving sales really came together perfectly, which was a key driver for the success of the Carling Cup. It's interesting for me, being on the other side now, being at a sports federation, and just to add to what Tommy was saying, it goes way beyond the stadiums. You've got club cricketers, you've got the grassroots side of it, and it really does trickle down to that level of the sport. It's not just about the elite performers at an international level. You've got provincial players, you've got club cricketers, and that's really the heartbeat of the game. And that's always an effective place to link the brand as well.
I'm going to stay with you, Mtunzi. We are a third world country. It's something that we all hate to say because some of us move only in first world spaces. But the fact is we are a third world country. And when I compare like for like, from a sporting point of view, it just feels like South Africa does something completely first world when it comes to sport. How important is this money? How important is it? I understand that you say from a grassroots level, it makes sense, the synergies. But what would it look like without South African breweries and that type of involvement? What would the sporting scene in our country that we love so much, what would that look like? And I think I'm just trying to ask, how important is this money for you now that you're on the other side?
Well, to put it simply, it's used to make everything happen. Making everything happen goes across the board. We run cricket from different levels, across the different levels of infrastructure. It obviously culminates in the international game.
Yes.
But throughout the cricket ecosystem, the money is used to obviously ensure that facilities are operational. It's used to ensure that, things just work. And very importantly, once you get to the sort of pinnacle of the game, it's really used to enhance the experience. It's used to enhance the match day experience. And I think I touched on Castle Corner earlier, which is effectively a fan engagement space within most of our stadiums here. Now, Castle Corner has a lot of stuff. There's a bit of music. I know at Supersport Park in Centurion, there's a swimming pool. So it really takes your match day experience to the next level. And, for us, it's important because you've got other options on a Saturday afternoon, right? You can stay at home and watch Netflix, or you can go to the stadium. So it's important for us to use those funds to ensure that you're getting the best possible value for your Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon at the stadium.
Tommy and Masha, I know I'm pulling, but I'm so excited. I'm sorry, I'm far too excited. Tommy, I remember one of my greatest moments was it was 2010. We were shooting the ads, and at the time it was a post. Castle Lager was then Proteas, Bafana and Springboks, and we did this huge ad, Cape Town Stadium, with literally me being carried into the stadium.
I remember
all three different. It made the front pages of the newspapers. I've never felt more patriotically South African because I was being carried by the
national heroes.
National heroes.
Yeah.
Even then, I got to say it as straight as it is. Even then, it felt like Castle Lager are here first for the actual sport and first for the fandom of the sport before the thought of return on investment came into the fray. Was that just the magic of because I was part of it, or is that still kind of the ethos with which you try to operate?
That is absolutely the ethos. I mean, our purpose is rooted in belonging and making new friends. That's what we're about. And we use sponsorship and sport to facilitate that. In order to make experiences more meaningful. So, I mean, Castle Lager's turning 130 years old very soon, next year. And
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
And we've got into sport for many decades, as mentioned before. And it's about making the fan experience meaningful, memorable. And of course, our national team members are our heroes.
Yes.
Our idea is how do we get the consumers, the fans, closer to their heroes? And we feel at Castle Lager we have the ability to do that because we sponsor the 3 national sports, and we refer to ourselves as the national beer of South Africa. So if we have the ability to do that, and when we do that, we feel that consumers will appreciate it. They'll find it more meaningful. Going to the game is one thing, but to have the Castle Corner experience, just makes it a little bit more memorable. And we're glad that we can play a role in making consumers' enjoyment come true.
Mtunzi, for you, what are some of have you ever turned down a sponsor because your values are not aligned? I mean, does that happen? Or you welcome wherever the money comes from is pretty much.
They are watching. Answer very slowly.
We don't have to name any names, obviously. No, name. But have you? What's the process that you go through when? Because I'm sure, national sport cricket, there's lots of people watching cricket, and when the team's performing, even like there's lots of attention. The T20, the World Cup, that was super exciting. How do you choose who you end up partnering with?
Yeah, so I think the approach is really around aligning with brands or categories that can add to the experience.
Okay.
So whether you're watching on TV, on broadcast, or whether you're in the stadium, we target brands that can add to the experience. So, an example of that, and if I go back into the history, right, you would have a beer brand as a partner.
Yeah.
You would have a car brand as a partner. Yep. You would have a telecommunications company as a partner. And those particular categories have a role to play in the different spheres. Right. You would have an airline partner as an example. We saw with the Springboks All Blacks game, and that's how that particular airline decided to create some noise, literally.
Yes. It was amazing.
So we do target specific categories because we want to back engineer a very clear role for them on match day or on broadcast. So an example would be, one of our partners is Thirsty Water, and through a day at the cricket in summer, at some point you're going to need a bottle of water, right?
And if you don't, you should.
And
drink more water, guys.
And that's really the approach. So, it's very important for us because, in the current context of the country, South Africans are rallying behind sport.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
we come together.
It's our
behind
lifeline,
sport.
my friend.
And I suppose there's not too many better platforms to tell your story as a brand because South Africans are tuned in. They're passionate. They are involved in your story. And I think what's very important about sport, if you compare it to other forms of entertainment, you know, it's the unscripted drama.
Yeah.
It plays out in front of you, right? A lot of other forms of entertainment, someone's edited it, someone knows the script, someone knows how it ends.
Curated.
Whereas it's curated. Whereas with sport, you're part of the story unfolding.
The live element.
Yes. And that's where, you know, call it a unique selling point from a sports perspective compared to, you know, other forms of sponsorship.
I mean, I have to say that you've crossed the floor well, because you sound like the other side now. and you sound like, no, you speak like the other side. And I love that you've got your kind of your foundation here. And I'm sure that you learned a lot, you know, especially your time at Black Label. But I realized you crossed the floor because Tommy gave you a word of advice off camera, and your first words to him were, "Do you have money?" Like out of you didn't even blink.
It's my job.
Like, so my question is, what is that like? Because you were, I'm sure, for a very long time, the person that people were coming to ask for alignment, and now you're on the other side. And I'm giving you this question as an opportunity because I think a lot of people need to learn how to approach brands. A lot of marketers need to understand alignment, synergies, longevity. You know what I mean, and creating legacies. So give us some pearls of wisdom from somebody who's played for both sides. Give us some pearls.
So I think what's really important, and Marsha spoke about my time on Black Label, and I went on to ABSA, who sponsored the PSL for many, many years. I think I got a very good understanding of what a brand wants to get out of a sponsorship. And to answer your question, my approach is to look at the world through the brand's eyes. I think most proposals are not giving consideration to what the brand wants. It's somebody doing an event or putting together a project and they need money. And they'll put your logo on and ask for money. Whereas I think a more effective approach is to look at the brand, understand that brand, that category. What are they trying to achieve?
Yes.
Then you back engineer that to how you can help them deliver on that.
The look at it through the lens of the brand, I think, is such an easy way to say it and understand it. Is before, and I've got to obviously allow you to respond, Mr. Lawrence.
Sure. Look, I mean, as mentioned, we've got a long relationship with the Proteas, and I think it's one not just about activating the game day experiences, but we care. I mean, they are partners. They've walked this road with us. We care for the players. We care for all the staff. You know, and an example of that with our national sports is, I guess, COVID. You know, when lockdown took place, the first budgets to be cut was events budgets and sponsorship budgets, and we were asked to renegotiate our contracts and cancel contracts because, you know, we didn't know what was happening in the world. And we were steadfast and we said, we're not going to cancel these contracts. And they said, but the stadiums are empty and the players are playing with no fans. And we said, no, but we have to support our partners and we have to stay true to them. So it's more than just a relationship. It's more than just a sponsorship. You know, we have the best interest of the teams at heart, the fans at heart, and we know that they have our brand's best interest at heart as well. And I think that's been the secret sauce or the magic in a long-standing relationship with us.
Where does that come from, though, historically within the business? That kind of alignment and looking at sport and beer in that, you know, that relationship of sponsorship. Where does that originate from within the business?
Look, I think it's a brave view. I think it originates with the leaders that trust trust the process, trust that staying steadfast and committing is the right thing to do, and that the brand will benefit, you know, with remaining partners and believing. You know, I think there was a word that was mentioned earlier. I think, Mtunzi, you mentioned that consumers, trust sport, as the unscripted. I think there's very little brands in South Africa that consumers trust.
Yeah.
I think they trust our teams. They trust Castle Lager. We've been around it. As we say, the taste that stood the test of time, especially in a moment in South Africa where, things are tough.
Yeah.
Things are very tough. Economically, being a South African, you have some kind of grit, some kind of resilience. No DNA, just RSA, right?
Yeah.
So, I think trust is such an important word, and I think the Protea brand, the Springbok brand, the Bafana brand, we have a lot of trust in these teams. And as mentioned, the Castle Lager brand, we believe that consumers trust us for always delivering and being there and playing a role to make South Africa a better place, and of course to optimize the teams as well.
I'm going to add consistency. So I think, and that builds into what you're saying, Tommy, around trust, because when you consistently show up, people start to go, oh, okay, so you are here for a greater purpose. You are here not just, for where it's good. You're
not
there.
A fair weather friend, they call it. You're not a fair. You're not only here when the sun is shining. We all make money.
Yeah.
COVID comes and you're still
there.
Yeah.
That's
right. And then that can kind of build brand love. So this talking about proposals. Mtunzi, you talked about understand. I think people underestimate, and I'm going to look into camera here. Is that lots of proposals that we get, and people underestimate research. Who you are going to present this to. So if you are sending a proposal to me as SAB brand versus Tommy as Castle Lager, it should be a different proposal.
Yes,
because as corporate brand, I'm looking for something else.
Yes.
How you package it, what are you giving us in return? Based on sometimes it's not even that the sponsorship could be right, but you just haven't packaged it in a way that Tommy and can go, oh, that makes sense for me and it speaks to my consumer. So now when we talk about consumer, right? So Tommy, you're quite across a few different sports. What would you say is the same? Because the Castle Lager consumer is probably the same person that we're speaking to. How different are you showing up in rugby versus like soccer, or is the brand staying the same?
I think the brand's consistent, right? And what's guiding us is our brand purpose. We exist to bring people together. And as mentioned, we use sports to facilitate that, sports to bring people together so that we can deliver our brand proposition and bring our brand purpose to life. As mentioned earlier, we, sit as the Castle Lager team and you say, okay, we tell stories about what South Africans love the most. And we know what South Africans love the most, as mentioned earlier. We love braaiing, right? So if we tell a story about braaiing, we're probably going to get a lot of South Africans who give us attention. We love rugby, we love cricket, we love football. South Africans love those sports. So it's important that we show up consistently all the time. And consumers, and I guess South Africans, they know Castle Lager. They know how we show up.
Yeah.
If you look at the iconic moments in sport over the years, I think of 1995 lifting the World Cup in Ellis Park. Castle Lager was there. You think about 2007 lifting the World Cup in France. Castle Lager was there. You think recently of 2019 and 2023, Castle Lager was there. So consumers have come to believe that Castle Lager will remain consistent. And as long as we're there, people are coming together. People are making new friends. People are getting to know each other better. And that's why we exist, and we use sports to deliver that.
And I think it's a very good platform. You're talking about storytelling and your role. What we found within sport, and in particular cricket, is that the match itself's not enough. Fans want more.
Yes.
They want the backstory. They want to understand, what goes into preparation, what goes into downtime, what goes into celebrations, what goes into disappointments, right? And there's a very, very powerful aspect of storytelling. And, as human beings, we've been telling stories since the beginning of time. And that hasn't changed. The platform you tell the story on changes. The story you're telling changes.
The reach has changed now.
Yes, but the idea of telling stories will never change. And for me, that's the importance of partnership. And we've actually changed our naming convention at cricket from sponsors to partners.
I like that.
Which is deliberate. We want to look at the world as a partnership, right? We want to tell those stories together as a partner, as opposed to, you my sponsor, you do what you do, and we carry on. that's not the approach going forward. The approach going forward is building together as partners and telling those stories together. As partners.
I'm excited about, I'm just throwing a plug. I know we're very much Castle Lager heavy, but we sponsored the Olympics this year and the Paralympics with Corona Zero. And I mean, it's just like, that's one of the biggest sporting platforms in the world. I mean, everyone and anyone, there's something for you to watch and tune into. And I really loved how like the Corona Zero brand, especially for South Africa, because as a global brand, it can be easy to just look like wallpaper.
Yes.
But I really loved, and thank you, the South Africans that performed. It was really good to see how that brand showed up in a meaningful way. So like when Tatiana won that gold medal, or when the 100-meter team won the silver. I mean, that was like really like amazing to watch. And Corona Zero was part of that. And I know that with us as SAB partnership, so I think we're sponsoring for the Olympics again. So it wasn't like a flash in the pan. So that you get to know your audience better. You can do something bigger. You can be better at it. But performance seems to be important. So as sports teams, you got to perform. If you're an athlete, you got to perform. Because if you're not performing, then how challenging can that be, Mtunzi? And I know like Cricket South Africa, we've gone through ups and downs, and I think we're on a good streak at the moment. So, you know, is that sometimes challenging to now have conversations with sponsors, you know, around, hey.
That's a very good question.
No, look, I think, you know, Tommy talked earlier about, you know, the importance of sport, and your true fans will back the team, right, through the good and the bad. And that's just the nature of sport, right? You buy into what the team's about. I think we're on the crest of a national pride where, you know, a lot of our sports teams are making an impact globally. You know, we made history early on in the year getting to the T20 World Cup final. Yeah. And, you know, you spoke about the Olympics. Bafana got to semifinals. So there's a lot of positive momentum and sentiment around, you know, national teams and then performing. You know, they're not always going to win. And I think as fans, you ride that wave with them. Yes. And when they do win, it makes it even better. So that's a really important point. And I suppose, you know, the longevity of this particular partnership talks to that. You know, a few years ago, we were number one in Test cricket, and Castle Lager was there, right? We are hosting the 2027 Cricket World Cup, and Castle Lager will be there, right? Because Castle's been around through 2010. Castle was around in 2003. Castle was around in 1996.
Marsha speaks to consistency, and you spoke about the Olympics is coming up again. We're doing it again. It's that again thing. Yes. That you weren't just there for the good days. You were there. You were there. Name a time, you were there.
Yeah, and it resonates throughout the organization, right? People know the partners who've been around and the partners who are in it through the good and the bad. And that allows you to build a relationship and to work through, you know, I know the Springboks are top of their game at the moment, but they also went through, you know, a challenging period, you know, 7, 8, 9 years ago. So for us, what's really exciting is the build up to the 2027 World Cup. And, you know, we're looking forward to the same, you know, gees that was around in 2010 and South Africans putting those covers on their mirrors. And,
what a special time to be alive.
And those are the types of, you know, discussions we're going to have with Castle Lager as partners is how do we create that buzz, right? It's not just about a match day. It's a general buzz in the country for that time period.
A formal question on what you're just saying now. So what does sports marketing and sponsorships of the future look like? So from where you sit now, what would you like to see from brands like Castle? And then, Tommy, we're going to give you a chance to kind of retort on what you see the future looking like. Mtunzi, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think really understanding the younger group of consumers. I think we're quite clear that the future is going to be on a digital platform, right? Now, what that platform looks like in 10 years' time, I don't think we know yet. Yeah. But we do know that it will be a digital platform, right? There's a lot of work happening in the US around, you know, sort of a Web3 metaverse experiences. I don't think, you know, we're there yet as a country.
But as we know as a country, we get there.
Yes.
eventually.
Yes.
Eventually.
And I think, it's really about understanding, 20 years ago, you would meet your mate at your local pub for a beer after work.
Yeah.
In 20 years' time, that interaction will probably be digital.
Yeah.
And it's about staying with it. It's about understanding it. The same principles apply, right? You've got sport, you've got a brand, you've got a partnership here, and you're communicating to consumers and fans. So those principles don't change. What will change is the platform and the manner in which you communicate.
That's why he is the chief.
No. Yeah. Spoken like a man who's never missed a debit order in his life. I love it for you. Tommy, the same question. Where do you see it going?
I mean, I'm aligned to that. I think the next couple of years, 10 years, I'd like to see, I think we're going to see a closer connection between fans and sports teams, fans and players, whether that's locker room experiences, whether that's behind the scenes. I think over the last 5 years, we've seen a lot of sports documentaries showing, what happens behind the scenes, and I know consumers and fans love that because all they're yearning for is a closer connection with these players that they see every single week, every other day. They want to know a little bit more about them. They want to know their routines. They want to know what they eat. They want to know, where they come from. And I think that's where sports marketing is going. We need to give the consumers what they want, and what they want is this closer connection to these players. And I think brands and with our partners can facilitate that.
So someone said to me the other day that the more connected we're becoming with our devices, the more disconnected we're becoming as human beings.
True.
Now, over the next 10 years, we're going to have to find that balance, because as much as I said, the platform is going to be digital, what we cannot lose is the human connections. And it's really going to be challenging for us as partners to come up with the ideas and the plans and the strategies around maintaining the human connection, but still staying relevant and top of mind from a digital platform perspective.
The old guys used to say there's no substitute for the live experience.
I was thinking that.
And I say that as somebody who performs live and is also struggling in this time to sell tickets, and are realizing it, we're going to come to a time where there won't be enough people who've experienced the live experience for that sentence to be out there.
Yeah.
So I hear you so loud in terms of how important it is to pivot and shift and move with technology and move with the platforms, but also still remind people that there will never be a substitute for a cold castle lager.
Absolutely.
There will never be a substitute. And they'll also, you've seen happy people, but you've never seen the look of a group of friends when you are able to carry 12 with those special tugs. Those special tugs at the 100. Now you can carry 12. You're making a whole community happy. There is no substitute. So I really, really love the fact that we can pivot, but I really hope we're still able to maintain that it doesn't all become virtual.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, the live, I want to maybe get hate here, but I struggle to watch like rugby on TV. I prefer to be at the stadium. Right. Cricket, I can watch all day anywhere because that's, that's fine. But certain sports, for me, it's at the game. And I took my sister, and it was her first live experience of rugby, and I could just see it was just, the whole experience was amazing. So I really hope that we never lose the live, because there's something about, we were high-fiving each other in the stadium, making strangers didn't know who they were, we were hugging, and it was just really the like you said, Tommy, the togetherness. And I think felt it even at the World Cup, at the pleasure, at the honor and the pleasure to go see the World Cup with one of our brands, Budweiser, and it was phenomenal. And that's like countries meeting across. So I think there is something special, and really looking forward to being there in 2027 at the Cricket World Cup, and really just hoping everybody, attends and you're part of that whole experience, because there's no substitute for live sports. I believe that.
I want us to close on this. What I noticed, because I was also lucky enough to watch a couple of games live in France, it's the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which stadium you are in, as long as you've got passion in sport and something cold and refreshing, it's the same. Gees is gees in any language. Yeah. I feel like that is almost as poetic as a rose is a rose. But gees is gees. Gents, thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for your big brains. Thank you for your commitment to the brand. Thank you for your commitment to the fans, not only to the team, but your commitment to the fans. And it's so exciting for me to see that. We cannot wait to see what happens next. And we feel it too. We feel that Protea Fire is.
I'm gonna say it here: a World Cup for the cricket team. It's coming. I can feel it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we particularly excited. We've got a summer of cricket coming up. India's here, Sri Lanka's here, Pakistan's here, and very importantly, on the women's side, England are touring here.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And the women will be playing a test match in December. So, women's sports been a big focus for us.
Love it.
Our team played in a World Cup final last year. So it's really important to continuously build, but also include and continue to grow the women's aspect of sports.
Absolutely
as well.
agree.
And I know during my time at SAB on Black Label, there was a huge percentage of women who drank Black Label.
Yes.
Still there.
Even more now.
Still
You just
there.
open the door
They're
now.
still there.
Yeah, so that's good to hear. And we've been talking about sport a lot, and we used to talk about insights when I was here. I hope that's still here.
Yeah.
Still there.
the same.
And
Still the same.
insights are universal human truths, man. It doesn't matter what country you're in. It doesn't matter what sport you're watching. We're all looking for the same thing when we go to a live sports game, or we watch it, at a friend's house or in a pub or whatever it is. So those universal truths will always remain, and it's about really working together to make sure that we top of mind and we're there and people are talking about us and we're relevant. So
I love that. Love you guys. Thank you so much for your time. Masha, final comments?
Yeah, all I'm going to say is thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Really appreciate it. We hope you learned something today, and we'll see you
at a
next time.
cricket stadium near you.
Drinking a cold
Castle Lager.
Salute
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Yes.
Cheers.
Nice.
Cheers.
Cheers.
If you wonder why I'm so excited, it's because it's time for my favorite segment, How to Beer and Beyond. That's just how excited I am. Of course, in this segment, not only do we focus on some of the product, but I also introduce you to some very interesting people. And today, this is the king of interestingville, trade brewer at SAB, the great Anton Erasmus. Meneer, I'm
Thank
so
you very
excited.
much. Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you for taking time. I know that you're
Pleasure.
a very busy person. I'm so excited that you came to hang out here with us. And I'm so excited that you are in uniform. You are in uniform, looking the part. We're going to chat about Castle Lager today. And I think it's so fitting that during this episode, we chat so much about sponsorships and the importance of brands aligning with culturally significant activities. We are chatting about the oldest, the greatest, and I think I may say it, the oldest existing lager in the country, the champion of them all, Castle Lager.
Absolutely.
Tell me about Castle. I remember back in the day, probably about 10 years ago now, where craft beer was making such a big impact in the world. Castle Lager did this great campaign called 1895, which essentially reminded South Africans that Castle Lager is the original and the OG craft beer. Is that true?
Certainly one of them, and in SAB stable, the one, when Charles Glass started brewing Castle beers here in Johannesburg in 1888. It was in every way then similar to the craft scene now. You had to get your ingredients together, work with the equipment that you had, work with the water that you had, and make craft something artisanally out of nothing.
So essentially, take water, take the raw ingredients, and make it because there's a need and not necessarily a supply.
And use your science and your ingenuity to be able to do so. Yeah.
Now, I asked you that question as a trick because I don't know what a trade brewer is. In my mind, a trade brewer is somebody who just brews for the trade. But what comes with that responsibility? What is a trade brewer?
Well, in a funny way, a trade brewer actually brews with our customers and consumers' minds. We take the brewing science into the trade and we answer all the tough technical and technological questions to build a beer culture.
Why do you think Castle Lager is so iconic in South Africa? It's something that we grew up with. It was the beer that I saw in the fridge at home that my dad consumed. It was all his friends drank Castle Lager. I remember these huge iconic ads. I got to be a part of some of these ads. What is it about Castle Lager that you think South Africans adore so much?
But we found that the mouthfeel and the taste profile of Castle suits the climate, suits the hot weather, suits even cold weather. It works very well, goes great with the food that we are famous for in South Africa.
Absolutely, and we're going to get to some food in a second. Just you wait. Just you wait.
So I think the old ditty of somewhat dry, somewhat bitter, never sweet, that kind of thing is actually true for Castle. Yes. So when you make up a ditty, it's got so much more legs if it's actually factually correct.
When you make up a
ditty, yeah.
Ditty. What is a ditty?
Ditty is a little slogan for a brand.
Aha! I had no idea. I'm learning things as we speak. Castle Lager for me meant a lot of things, but in my career, I was fortunate enough to see just how intrinsically linked Castle has been with some of South Africa's favorite things. The year was 2010. I was part of an ad campaign, and at the time, Castle Lager was literally Bafana Bafana, Proteas, and Springboks. And always, as I think back over the years, Castle has always just had this perfect kind of synergy with sport, which is such a big cultural thing in South Africa. Is that a deliberate thing?
Yeah, well, sport's a very emotional subject. It attaches one to you identify through sport, you identify your nationality, your identity, and the brands do very much the same thing for you. Castle's about winning, and the Springboks and being about winning.
That's what they do.
And for a lot of people all over the world, South Africa is about winning. Where we came from, it's all about winning, and I think this brand exemplifies that.
And thank goodness for that. Long may it last. I think we should celebrate Castle Lager's birthday, but we're not going to celebrate with the cake. We are going to do a food pairing, so something extraordinarily appropriate shall appear when we say the magic words on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Caw-caw! Caw-caw! Ta-da! Please talk me through how we are going to be pairing our delicious Castle Lager today.
In order for a beer to work well with food, it needs to have its own identity. It needs to be differentiated, but not just on taste, not just the sweet, sour, bitter. We also need to speak about mouthfeel. Mouthfeel is the intimate part of having a beer experience. So we've chosen Castle. So Castle has got coarse crispness as well as succulence, and those are two very opposite mouthfeels, and they blend perfectly, and they blend great with food.
I want to argue with you because a coarse crispness I can get, but succulent I was going to be like, can you even use that when describing a beer? Then I thought about the taste of Castle Lager, and I was like, it is coarsely crisp, and it does have a certain succulentness about it. Spot on, continue.
If you have Castle as it's intended, it's a lager. It's designed for a slightly bigger sip. On that bigger sip, you'll pick up the succulence. So we've chosen some typical South African foods. If you think about our salads and the guys on the East Coast, we've got some avocados, guacamole. We've got some on the cheese board. We've got some mature cheddar. And right up our alley, we've got some boerewors. Now, if you think Castle Lager is the beer of South Africa, boerewors is the processed meat champion of South Africa. It's got a crumb to it, which goes with Castle's coarseness. The guacamole will have a smoothness that goes with the succulence. The cheddar cheese will have a ripeness, and it'll be quite sticky on the palate.
Yes.
Because it's fatty, the bubble of Castle will scrape and clean that. So it's a palate cleanser. And the biltong will have very smooth, not the crumb of the boerewors, be very smooth texture with umami. And the Castle will quench that. And it does it very, very well.
I think that you have absolutely nailed it. It couldn't be more South African. And as a celebration of South Africanness, Castle Lager paired with your favorite South African treats. I love that sharpness of the cheese. I love that, what did you say? It's crummy. The wors is
crumble. It's got a crumble.
Crumble, which goes with the what is your other
coarseness.
Word? The coarseness, and then of course some good old-fashioned biltong. I think you and I have got to dig in. For everybody else, I hope that you're on your way to do your own pairing and make sure that your deliciousness matches our deliciousness. Anton is going to be back on this segment. He's the guy that's going to talk us through all the things we need to know about brewing, all the things we need to know about beer, and of course how all of those things meet culture. Thank you for your time, boss.
An absolute pleasure.
Can I pour you a beer?
I think it's time to hit.
Let's tala.
Okay. So maybe we'll do the one-hand pour.
Oh, show me the one hand, How did you just do that? Wait.
There we go. Absolutely. You're the first person that's ever done it on the first try with me.
I don't know if I should be proud or embarrassed. I'm not sure. I am not sure.
I'm just going to show you how to make a draft if you haven't got a draft app.
How did you do that?
You make sure that you dip the bottom, that must go right into the beer so you don't have too much foaming. Put it right to the bottom. Take it out quickly. There we go.
I mean, it's not exactly the same quality draft, but mine does have a cute bubble on top.
Pretty good, yeah?
Cheers.
Cheers to your health.
Salud.
Charles. Ooh, smell that. Hop character. You can smell the bitterness.
I almost started singing the national anthem. I'm telling you.
Welcome to the section we call rapid fire questions. So, gentlemen, this is the part where we ask you quick questions. Don't overthink it. Just say whatever comes to your mind. And we're just going to get to know you a little bit better. Okay. So, quick. Tommy, I'm going to start with you. Okay. Texting or talking?
Texting.
Castle or calling?
Always castle.
Castle or castle Milkstad?
Oof. That's a question.
Trap.
Castle, Milkstad, and Castle Lager.
That's a cop out.
Politically correct. yeah.
Last song you listened to?
Last song? Kenrick Lamar.
Cricket or rugby?
Careful now.
Cricket. Cricket.
Okay. And last question.
This is difficult. Yeah.
Last question. Hip hop or rock and roll?
Hip hop.
I mean,
You never know. The last time someone surprised me and I was like,
that
oh.
person was lying. I can tell you they were doing it just for likes and views.
Okay.
Mtunzi, are you ready? Top 5
Yes.
questions, 5 rapid fire off the top of your head as quick as you can. If you could drink a beer with any historical figure, who would it be?
Barack Obama.
Why?
I think when I listened to him and what he did for 8 years in the White House.
I thought you were going to wonder if his accent stays the same when he's drunk. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at keeping secrets?
7.
Be honest now.
6.5.
Thank you very much. And then, if you could just look that way, please, sir, and just say la 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 la. What's your favorite beer?
Carling Black Label.
Darling, my darling.
I should have chosen
It
rugby.
is what it is. He betrayed you.
Yeah.
What's your favorite song to listen to on a big night out?
I was listening to Oasis Wonderwall on my way here. I know there's a bit of talk about
It's happening.
about a reunion of sorts. But most of the time to get me going, DMX Bring It.
I never experienced it. Final answer, and it's not allowed to be Black Label. If, based on your personality, what beer best represents you?
I can tell you.
Probably a Castle Light.
Yeah.
I'm in my early 40s.
Yes.
And my metabolism is not as efficient as it used to be.
Welcome to the club.
So Castle Light does the job.
I like that. After 40, when you're 39, you don't have to think about your body. You just proceed. Once your motor plan is finished, and that happens at 40, all of a sudden, Castle Light enters the chat for no reason. I love it very, very, very much. Gents, thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Cheers.